This is Talk of the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up today, Brighton are up next as Ruben Amorim's boys look to build on back-to-back Premier League wins. But to do that, they'll have to beat Manchester United's Bogey team. We'll get into all the details on the preview to that. And if the summer transfer business, of course, had gone differently, Baleba would have been playing in red this weekend. We'll catch up on that transfer situation and check in on the one that got away last summer. But will he get away again? That's the question. Anyway, everyone's back again, as you'd imagine. Laurie, Carl and Andy, hello to everyone. And people still basking in the glory of that win at Anfield, understandably, of course. I mean, it's been a lovely week. And thank you to everyone who's been in touch with the weird and wonderful tales of exactly how much they've enjoyed spending time, associating, chatting to Liverpool supporting friends and family. We had a brilliant email from Ellis who said, "My father-in-law is a Liverpool supporter, season ticket holder actually of 50 years. Since the start of the season, he's been sending me WhatsApp messages every few days. The pleasure it gave me after weeks of enduring abuse to finally respond gave me such satisfaction. Christmas Day will be a better place thanks to our dearest Harry Maguire." So, yes, Ellis, I think there's a bit of us in all of that, Andy, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. It's been a quality week. And we say these long weeks can be pretty painful. This one hasn't been. That was a top win against Liverpool. And I noticed when I went to switch the telly off last night, Liverpool 1-0 down against Eintracht Frankfurt. So I think they lost that game as well. So that's 5 defeats on the bounce. Good. I know we'll end up focusing on what comes next, and that's quite right. But it was a really significant result at Anfield on Sunday. I hope it lifts the confidence of the players and certainly lifted the confidence of the fans. And it also made Liverpool do a bit more navel gazing than they normally do every single day. It's been quite funny to see how many of them have been turning on each other. And Liverpool fans who I properly respect are like, the knee-jerk reactions are just ridiculous. We're the champions of England. We've got a really good team. We've got a really good club. And the sort of moans that we've seen so often among Manchester United's fan base, it's weird seeing them going at each other after a couple of defeats. So maybe it's just a modern societal thing.
Yeah, Carl, we don't need knee-jerk reactions. We can just wallow in the wonderment of that glorious Harry Maguire goal just a couple of days longer maybe before we face up to Brighton, and we'll get into exactly why that's going to be a tricky test once again for United.
Absolutely. First of all, chapeau on your introduction, all the B's.
Thank you.
Well done. Unbelievable.
Didn't mention our Bri either, did I?
We did not.
The bee buzzing from Brentford.
Can I make a confession? I rewatched the win.
Again? Is this like a third watch
third time in its entirety.
Yeah.
Rewatched it again.
Does it get better?
It does.
That's good.
It does.
Still ends 2-1, yeah?
It still ends 2-1. And then you can also see like 2 or 3 times when certain passes were on for the opposition and they can't do it because their heads are frazzled, which is brilliant. Yeah, it's been a good week. I've definitely done 2 or 3 messages to my Liverpool supporting mates. Nothing too serious, just a little hello, mate. You okay?
I did the same on the school run on Monday morning. One of the lads is a big Liverpool fan. Morning, mate. You okay? Yeah, good weekend? Yeah. Didn't mention anything to do with Sunday and waiting for him to go.
Still, hello.
You deserved it, didn't you, after about 10 minutes of waiting at the gates? Amazing. Just hook him in slowly. We are joking a bit, Laurie, aren't we, obviously, because United are still not where we want them to be, but it is still important to be able to enjoy these moments, and you wonder how much of a difference that is going to make to the mood heading to Old Trafford on Saturday, the mood amongst the squad, the team, just to try and bring the positivity, basically.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw as well a little social clip, didn't we, of the players arriving at Carrington on Monday after the game, bouncing their steps, sort of smiles on their faces, being asked who was your man of the match, and obviously a lot of them said Harry Maguire. There was an honourable mention for Cunha from Bruno, who actually gave it a lot of thought. He was sort of paused by the door before he went in.
He doesn't really do short answers,
ruminating
Bruno.
over this, what is supposed to be a quick 2-word answer, I suppose, to the social channels. But you've got to think that gives the players just that element of belief and encouragement that if they can stick to a task, they can achieve, they can beat any team really, because as you say, Liverpool, I know they've been in a slump. I hate to break it to you, Andy, they actually ended up winning that game rather comfortably against Frankfurt, which maybe paints United's victory in better complexion, because actually here you have a team that can go away in the Champions League, albeit to a team that they've stolen their best player from. I say stolen, paid a lot of money for in the summer. But I think that just reminds people that actually they are, for all their troubles that they've had trying to fit all these, big money players into the striking department, they are a pretty good team. So to be able to actually go to Anfield and be good value for the win should give them that encouragement ahead of what we'll get into is a tricky fixture, right, with another B, Brighton visiting Old Trafford.
Just before we do that, talking about Maguire, Andy, there's been sort of simmering chat once again, simmering speculation about his contract situation. What do you understand the latest to be with him staying at United?
You know what he did after Anfield before I explained that? He went home and read a story to his 2 daughters. A little fairy tale.
Was it about a hero dressed in white heading a ball into the back of the net at the Anfield Road end?
It wasn't, but it should have been.
Ever after.
I mean, that is a better fairy tale, or his career is a better fairy tale than anything, Enid Blyton or whoever could come up with. With his contract, so there's not been any talks. He's free to talk to other clubs on the 1st of January.
So is that a contract at the end of this season? That's the +1 as well, yeah?
Yeah, because there was a renewal last year. So the +1 was activated last December. So he can talk to other clubs January. He can leave for free at the end of the season. There's been no talks at all. I've seen people saying there's been talks. There's been no talk. Nothing formal. So there's 2 sides to this. Harry Maguire is settled in Manchester. He could have left. He could have left 2-3 seasons ago. Chose to stay. I spoke to him in August and he was like, just very, very happy where I am. It's a football decision. I think there'll be a little bit of brinkmanship from both sides. And it will probably come down to money. How much do Manchester United want him? I think Manchester United will look at buying another central defender. Does Harry stay on the same money? Does he get offered a lesser contract? That's for the people who make football decisions to make a football decision. And fans can all have their opinions as to whether he should stay on, he should be released, he should go elsewhere. But that is the lie of the land at the moment.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the market really, doesn't it? Because, United can really, if from their perspective, leave it until as late as they want to offer him a contract. He can obviously negotiate terms with foreign clubs in January and could even agree a deal. And so there's a little bit of time pressure on it from that point of view. But just the way he's been around the club, the length of time he's been at the place, the status that he's got, you feel that he'd want to stay if they could. So yeah, I'm sure they'll come to have these talks in more meaningful fashion as we go along. But as Andy said there's nothing that I'm aware of that's currently ongoing.
Could you imagine Harry playing and living in Italy on the Amalfi Coast, or living in Turkey or in France, maybe Spain? I just can't. I'm sorry. This is someone who comes out in a rash when he goes south of Nottingham. He's a Sheffield lad. He's made a massive, massive move over the Pennines, 34 miles to Cheshire. And
Leicester before that, not too far from Sheffield.
Yeah. So I hope something is worked out. I think he's a calm influence in the dressing room. He started 3 of 8 Premier League games so far, so he isn't starting all of the time like he used to be. But his stock is so much higher than where it was among some online United fans in sort of 2022, 2023.
Yeah, the atmosphere around him, the reaction in the stadiums as well, the whole package, he's done fantastically well. And we'll keep an eye, obviously, on the contract situation. Let's talk about Brighton then. Do we have to, Carl?
Oh, Danny Welbeck, please don't hurt me this time.
It just feels like the same game over and over again. I've written it down. So they've won 3 in a row at Old Trafford, which we mentioned on the last podcast in the Premier League. A 2-1 win, Erik ten Hag's first game in August 2022. 3-1 win in September 2023. That was still Ten Hag. And then obviously Ruben Amorim, the last one, a 3-1 win again for Brighton in January. And Laurie, the last time that Brighton won at Old Trafford, there was a broken television in the dressing room. And as you've also written, there was a head coach declaring it the worst Manchester United team maybe ever. We definitely don't want a repeat of that, do we?
No, we don't. But I think that's perhaps why then, if they were to change that sequence and get a victory, it would have even more resonance, right? If you can kind of go.
Is this the real test? Not winning away to the champions.
This is another test, shall we say?
Sure. The next test.
Yes,
the latest test.
There was some internal debate about whether this was the real test after the Anfield game. But I mean, when you look at the actual stats, and I got, you sort of just remember that Brighton seems to always beat United. Even at the Amex, they've had good results there. So I got our
with
stats
different
guy,
coaches too.
Different coaches, different players, really.
Well, I think those three results at Old Trafford are three different coaches, aren't they?
So 2-1 on Ten Hag's first game's Graham Potter. Next victory's on the De Zerbi. Most recent victory's on the Hertzler.
Same kind of play though, isn't it? So when I was watching the games back, I mean, the runs in behind are really smart, and then cutback goals United have been susceptible to from Brighton, and we've seen that this season already, haven't we? Phil Foden at Man City, when you've got midfielders not tracking runners or perhaps not being suited to that, so that's something for them to consider. But when I got Mark Carey, our data guy, to just do a table of where did Brighton rank in sort of recent seasons. And initially, when I got him to do it, I said, since they got promoted, and it they're pretty middling, but because United, when they first got promoted, Brighton would absolutely hammer them every time. The last 4 seasons, Brighton have actually got the best record against United of any club, sort of level with Arsenal, Man City, that kind of vibe. But anyway, United have won 2 and lost 6 to Brighton, so it's never been a draw between them in the Premier League. So that's something.
0.8 points per game, wasn't it, that United have taken against them, same as Arsenal and City?
Yeah, so it really does show that over a sort of sustained period, Brighton have got United's number. And as Carl's alluded to there, Danny Welbeck's been a feature of this team repeatedly, either scoring, assisting, or even in the goal that opened the scoring in January. It was his kind of dropping deep into midfield, which he does really well, to draw Matthijs de Ligt out of defence. And in the same moment, you've got Mitoma running in behind Mazraoui and Carlos Baleba, pinging that long ball over the top, and then he squares it for Minte. And you also had Yoro pressing high on João Pedro, who'd also dropped. So they've got, different players again this time. But I suppose Minte, Mitoma and Welbeck could all start, same as Baleba. But you've got players here from years on years of recruitment with a clear structure of the club that understand the roles that they're going into, and it's different. Each coach has developed it. I think Graham Potter was much more about kind of retaining possession, and De Zerbi was all about baiting the press, and you've got a bit more rock and roll maybe from Hertz, so he does want a kind of high press. So if United maybe could could revert, could tap back into that strategy as they did at Anfield and kind of go more direct, and I don't know, could they really sit in a low block to kind of avoid those balls in behind? It's obviously more tricky at Old Trafford, but these are kind of the considerations that are ahead, I think, for Amorim.
Yeah, definitely. And Carl, Sunderland, the approach against them, that's to get a home game against the side you're expected to beat. But there was direct balls in that game as well, and very effective ones at that. Very
much so. So obviously there was a lot of Lamont's watch in the Sunderland game, and I remember there was an early goal kick straight up to Mbeumo. And the contact perhaps wasn't the best, but I do remember notably Mbeumo swinging round and giving a big thumbs up to Lamont, saying, keep doing that. The interesting thing is, since the Sunderland game, we've seen a change or an adaptation in United's off-ball shape. So now it's closer to a 5-4-1. So you got Mount and Mbeumo playing a lot tighter to your centre forward to just try and block off the middle. And I think you'll probably see that again against Brighton. It really feels right now that Amorim is concerned about not getting cut up through the centre and then almost bypassing the centre when they want to attack by going long and going direct. So when you've got a player like Mbeumo and Cunha, you've got a chance. I can't quite decide where Amorim is leading for the front three, but I do have a sneaky feeling Mason Mount's going to start yet again.
Okay, yeah, we'll debate the starting lineup in a bit, definitely, because I think it is, there's more question marks again about exactly what he does. Andy, you like South Coast sides beginning with B, don't you?
I've got a beef
proud
with Brighton,
history
mate.
Of promoting them.
You've got a
beef with Brighton.
Yeah, I've got a bee in his bonnet with Brighton.
I have got a Bournemouth. I'm having more respect for them from a footballing perspective. They're expanding the stadium. I've got genuine sympathy with their fans having to come to Old Trafford on a Monday night. Brighton,
a bridge has been built.
Wow.
Yeah, but Brighton, I've got a beef with Brighton. Look, I know I know it's a nice place. I know they've been run incredibly well as a football club. Maybe I've got a bit of a beef because they beat Manchester United most times, but my issues with Brighton fans, some came at me recently because he travelled up to a game in the north and there were more Man United coaches at a service station in M1 than Brighton fans. And I'm like, but it's Man United, mate, got national and global support. What I would say is Manchester United have got a huge support in Manchester as well. And he kept coming at me going, no, this isn't true. I said, listen, mate, I came to the Goldstone ground in 92 and every coach came down from Manchester. He's like, no, you're all from Sussex. I'm like, listen, mate, when you're on your backside playing away games at Gillingham because you didn't have any ground of your own, I was really helpful towards Brighton and Hove Albion. No, it doesn't alter the fact that none of your fans come from Manchester. Listen, mate, your average crowd when we were European champions in 2008 was 5,800. I was at the last game of Wivdy in your temporary stadium with an athletics track, right? When you decided that you all wanted a ticket. I think there's 7,800 there. Don't start coming at me saying what constitutes a big football club and a big fan base. Just because you're getting 30,000 now, oh, we've got Premier League football and tickets are accessible. We've got a little train station next to the university campus and our nice new stadium, right? Know your lane. You're not Liverpool. You're not Manchester United.
Wow, well, if the TV is now fixed in the home dressing room, we know exactly what video needs to be shown by Ruben Amorim during the pre-match chat.
That reminded me of the time, do you know when Andy just unloaded on this lad who'd done him wrong 20 years ago or 25 years ago when United were in Brazil, and he saved it all up for this furious venting in our sort of recollections of that trip to Brazil. How long have you been stewing on this one, Andy?
It's just some Brighton fan came at me recently and I'm just like, know your lane. I think the Stretford End should hold a massive flag up on Saturday which just says 5937. Brighton's average crowd in 2008. Do you know what I mean? 5,937. They couldn't even sell out an athletics track with temporary stands around it. Where were all these Brighton fans who've discovered the club since they moved to the new stadium in 2011? I do respect any football fan who watches the team, the people who come up to the away end, fine, but do not start giving it the big one just because you know that Crystal Palace, your arch rivals, have got far more respectable average crowds than you.
Well, you know, the TRA have been fantastic so far this season with the flags in the Stretford End and reclaiming the Stretford End. So maybe that is something that can be done these days. Perhaps that number could be displayed on a flag ahead of kickoff. And I'm sure every single Brighton-related person inside the stadium will know straight away exactly what it refers to.
It's too late, mate. So the lads who pull the flags together, you're totally right. They've done a brilliant job. The Stretford End is looking better game by game, by the way. And if they can move it into the second tier, and it's just fantastic. It's one of the best things about this season.
It's got the safe standing section up there now as well, which will add to things, won't it? That's expanded again for this game, I understand.
Yeah. I should have communicated this 3 weeks ago so that they have time to get the flag made. 5937. It should be like
just
the
3007 one. Just put it on a bed sheet and send it across.
Yeah, just to hold it up.
I'm sure that's fine. I look forward to seeing it. I think Simon's on your page, actually. He says, I won't deem United back until they pass the test of the 3 Bs, Brentford, Brighton and Bournemouth. Obviously, we're already 1-0 down after losing against Brentford, but another test awaits this weekend. Brighton have beaten us 3 times at home. We've established that with 3 different managers using apparently 33 different players. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's probably not, is it? Anyway, can this weekend be different? We all hope that it can be, certainly. And they've got a curious record, Laurie, this season, Brighton, as well. They're actually below United in the table. They're in 10th, 1 point below. And the wins have come against City, Chelsea and Newcastle, the defeats against Everton and Bournemouth, and draws to Fulham, Spurs and Wolves. So they definitely seem to be a bit like United so far this season, better against the better teams.
Yeah, I do feel that they're perhaps coming into it though, because the last 3 games, beating Newcastle, beating Chelsea. Okay, Chelsea had a man sent off, and the draw at Wolves, sort of late equaliser. So yeah, I kind of feel like they're perhaps on the upward trajectory, because they had Everton, didn't they, at their new stadium that I've forgotten the name of, Hill Dickinson.
I was there as well. Brighton were awful.
Yeah, so there we go. So Brighton were awful. I was
not to do an Andy Mitten too much, but yeah,
Everton being good and up for it in their new stadium.
Well, it was Brighton's finishing, to be honest.
That was it.
Well, said that.
Well, missed a penalty,
missed the penalty. He missed the sitter as well.
Yeah. So whereas now he's not, he's doing a lovely little dink finish against Nick Pope and slotting another one in, and a couple of great finish. A really nice finish actually against Robert Sanchez in the Chelsea game. Again, a little dink. So maybe that's something for
4 and 3 for that bloody guy. Welbs.
Yeah, I know. Imagine, could have been different, couldn't it, this summer if United had figured things out differently in terms of having a look at him. So, but yeah, I think it just shows, doesn't it, that he actually is, he's 34, turning 35, I think, next month, and he's kind of coming in. It feels like a lot of people are saying he's in his prime almost, which is kind of bizarre given he's been actually because he came for United when he was like 17, right? And so I know he's not played as many minutes maybe as other players of his age because he's had injuries at different points. But it'd be interesting. I'm sure he'd be sort of reveling in the prospects of doing it again at Old Trafford. But anyway, enough about him. What can United do? It sounds like you'd be okay with them kind of taking the direct approach again, Ian, and sort of not messing about with it at the back.
Just got to win, haven't they? Simple as. Something has to change the narrative. And speaking to the players after the game the other day, there was already a refocus, even in the post-match interviews, about making it 3 in a row. No celebration about winning back-to-back matches. It can't just stop at that. Harry Maguire called it embarrassing, didn't he, to be honest, that it's taken this long to get back-to-back. So it's about now back-to-back-to-back. And once we've done that, it'll be about back-to-back-to-back-to-back until there's so many backs, you can't list them anymore. That's what it needs to be, doesn't it, to improve things? And I guess they can take an example from the women's side, to be honest. In all the excitement of Sunday, I forgot to mention their win against Atletico away in the Champions League, which was last Thursday, a 1-0 win. They were down to 10 players for a big chunk of that match before Atletico also got one sent off. Fridolina Rolfo scored the only goal. It means that United are one of 5 teams with a 100% record after 2 matches at the top of the Champions League league phase. So congratulations to them. They're on an extended break until they also face Brighton in the WSL a week on Sunday. And we'll check in with them again after that match before they face PSG, which is the next Champions League tie, and Mary Earps' return to Old Trafford. So there'll be plenty to talk about on that, and we'll do that in a couple of weeks' time. Well, speaking of former friends, sort of, Carlos Baleba will come to Old Trafford with Brighton this weekend. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation in the summer, a move by Manchester United to try and bring him north. It's a bit of an audition, I suppose, Carl, this for him. We've seen players in the past, Matheus Cunha springs to mind straight away at Molineux last season, spring into action when they're up against the side that they're linked with. And it'll be intriguing to see how he plays on Saturday, won't it?
Very much so. He's not had a great start to the season. Hertzler has already spoken in a post-match press conference, thinking that the speculation around his future has probably had an effect on his form, which, as a Man United fan, I think I've already said, if your form was being affected just by being linked to Man United, I have questions about how you'd be if you were a Man United player in terms of mentality. But I think he's a good football player. I can absolutely see why Brighton, in the summer that's just gone, were trying to ask for Caicedo money. I think any prospective club going in for January or post-World Cup will go, maybe not the fee that Caicedo went to Chelsea for, but there's still a very, very good defensive midfield player in there. I think his passing is deceptively good as well. He can hit the ball into the channels in a way that Amorim likes. So, good player. I like watching him. I hope he has a terrible game on Saturday.
Yeah, and he's had a few questionable performances so far this season, looking at the data and reading some of the reports as well. Started 7 of the 8 league games so far for Brighton, taken off at half-time in 3 of those matches. He's not completed 90 minutes yet. In fact, 71 minutes is what he played in the last game against Newcastle, where, in fairness to him, he looked a lot better. good enough to go on Instagram and post that he's feeling like himself again, which is maybe an anonymous sign ahead of Saturday.
Quite a few United fans in the comment section there.
Oh, really?
I had a look afterwards. I went, there it is.
What, saying what you're doing, get yourself to Old Trafford?
Yeah, a couple of, everyone trying their best attempt to be Agent Mitten.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, how close did United come to getting him in the summer, in your opinion? And do you think it's something that they will revisit in January or next summer?
So it's been parked. So read into that as you want. United absolutely wanted him. My firm understanding was that Baleba wanted to join Manchester United, but Brighton, who used to get 5,500 about 15 years ago, decided that they're bigger than Real Madrid, and to be honest, they never got round to talking to a fee, but it was always improbable. I think we said that pretty consistently from the start. You know, while I'm on Brighton, you know, FC United, one of their greatest ever results was in the FA Cup at Brighton away in 2010. They got a draw, which was brilliant. Brighton were League One winners. Obviously, it wasn't a full house because Brighton have got about 6 fans. And I remember Gus Poyet, I worked with him for a time, Gus Poyet. He's a bit of a character. He was Brighton's manager. And he was really angry because Brighton fans booed their own team. He said, I invite every single person who booed the team today to stay at home. Sorry, Carlos Baleba. Carlos, you want to play for a big club against fans who are not going to get on your case after one misplaced pass. Join Manchester United. Play a load of mental games this season to work your price down to 37 quid and a bag of spanners. Move to Manchester. Life will be sweet.
There you go. January, is it an option, Laurie, for United to do something as far as you understand? We're not far away now. We're a couple of months away from the window opening again, and Elliot Anderson's been linked again this week. Angela Stiller's another one whose name seems to crop up in a lot of the speculation online too.
You're not going to mention Carl's favourite?
I've not seen as much about our Adam. No, there's been a bit less of that.
He's had a good season though, hasn't he? I mean, when you look at Palace, I actually was looking at United's XG because they're, this sort of debate about have they been missing a lot of chances and, what have they been like on the other end of the pitch. Are we allowed to do
XG yet, Carl? We're still a couple of matches
8
away,
games,
aren't we?
Is it? No, still
enough.
absolutely
No,
irrelevant.
okay.
Well, okay, I know it's irrelevant, but Palace have actually got the best XG in the whole league by 17.
I sat in Daniel Farke's press conference yesterday. Someone needed to tell him that statistics weren't allowed to be mentioned yet because there was a lot of statistics
was he bringing a few out
as well? Yeah.
But so how much Adam Wharton has been contributing to that, I think that's a fair point to make. Anyway, January and midfielders. I mean, it's actually interesting, I suppose, if you think about Kobbie Mainoo's position, because he obviously asked to leave on loan before the summer deadline. Is he getting enough football for him to change that view? I would suspect not. So let's see if that's something that actually then materialises in January. If that does happen, then I think United would perhaps look at getting somebody in, perhaps as a temporary basis. I just can't really see a world in which they go and spend money on a player in January, really. So I think
can they with the PSR limitations? Because it was all very tight in the end of the summer, wasn't it?
They pushed it, didn't they? Yeah, they pushed it. So, they obviously dipped into the revolving credit facility again. So in terms of just cash levels, do they actually have the money, there in the bank to do it? But yeah, I agree. I think PSR, FFP is a factor in all this as well. Obviously, they can then maybe sell a player before the June 30th deadline in the summer, but obviously you then, calling on a little bit. I guess they did do that with buying Sesko before they'd sold Garnacho and before they'd kind of really sold Højlund. So, I'm sure they're not afraid of doing something like that, backing themselves to actually get a decent money. But it does then lessen your leverage, doesn't it? So could they have got more for Garnacho, for example? But yeah, so I think that's one area to look at. But I can't see anything until next summer really happening. But it's clearly an area of the pitch that United need to look at with Casemiro's contract coming up as well. I know they've got a +1 for him, but there's no world in which they trigger that because of the current wage that he's on. So yeah, it's an interesting area to explore for sure, but I think January would be too soon.
Okay. I mean, there's been a couple of question marks as well about the next person we're going to talk about in terms of his future. But forget that for a moment, because Saturday will be a landmark day for captain Bruno Fernandes. He's set to make his 300th Manchester United appearance against Brighton. Moves him level. Well, it would do if he plays, and he will play, I'm sure, because he always does. Moves him level with Nemanja Vidic, Andy, as well. 62nd all-time top appearance maker for Manchester United.
Why are you saying me on Vidic? Because you know I absolutely buzz off him. You know, last Friday, United's legends played in Hong Kong, and Ash Westwood, who's the manager of Hong Kong, one of the hardest men ever, said, any chance you can introduce me to Nemanja Vidic? So I happily did that, and they met each other and they got on fine. I've never introduced two harder men in my life than them two together. I think Bruno's been a top player for United. I thought he was pretty poor in the second half at Anfield. I know that cross was sublime. I think he's having a really interesting season because it's nowhere near as good as last season, where it's probably impossible to be as good as last season because he was so important for Manchester United. But his role has changed and it's a little bit awkward. Celebrate the fact he's reached 300. It's a brilliant achievement. He has been, by a distance, the best signing of the post-Fergie era, made a difference right from the start. I think he carries his responsibility well as club captain. So, yeah, applause for that. Fantastic. I remember when he got his 250th, Jim Ratcliffe came on the pitch and got applauded. I don't think that had happened now. I think the mood has changed, and I think the mood will change slightly towards Bruno Fernandes. I think if a big offer came in for him in the summer, it'd be taken much more seriously than talk of him going last year. But if I'm judging him on his performances as a United player so far, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, Carl, he's only actually about 30-odd appearances away from the top 50 all-time leading appearance makers for the club, and he seems to have got there in lightning speed as well. He's obviously, one of the first names on the team sheet still, if not the first name. His role has changed, but this will be another moment just to acknowledge exactly how much of an important footballer he's been for United and still is.
Oh yeah, he's been essential. He's the straw that stirs the drink at Manchester United. I once said I think I've said before, he puts the fun in dysfunctional football team. And there have been so many times where I've sat next to Laurie and Bruno has gone down and got up and then started walking gingerly, and we're both looking at each other going, is this it? Is this the time where he gets properly injured? And then 5 minutes later, he's sprinting all over the place. And you're going, how is he doing this? We know Adam Crafton did an interview with him a couple of years ago where he talked about his love of chocolate cereal, so maybe that's a factor in there. But by all accounts, this is a man who trains relentlessly, goes home, does all the correct sort of aftercare, looks after his children, and then gets an 8 hours sleep and then goes on again. So well done to him. Thank you very much to Mrs. Fernandes for convincing him to stay for one more season. So get one more season at Manchester United. And he's right. He's not necessarily hit the heights of last season. The fact that he's missed 2 penalties or failed to convert 2 penalties already is surprising. And this new role that he's got in this box-to-box deeper role, there are still some teething issues. We talk about cutbacks and runners in Phil Foden's goal. There have been 2 goals this season. I think that Fernandes himself will be disappointed that he wasn't checking his shoulders as someone's running in behind him. But the thing about him is he seems willing to learn, and he seems eager to try and improve himself and to do everything possible to make Manchester United a better team. So as I said before, I know there's people listening to this podcast saying we should have sold him in the summer. I've seen enough games Manchester United play without Bruno Fernandes to now know I do not want to be without Bruno Fernandes. So as long as he's at Old Trafford and he's in the squad, I want him to play as many games as possible. And the fact that he's willing to play as many games as possible, makes me happy.
Yeah, it makes him happy as well, doesn't it? He was desperate to get out the dressing room at Anfield and do some interviews because he always seems to be the one who has to come forward and do the crisis ones when things haven't gone well. So it was nice to see him stood there with a smile on his face talking about nice things for a change. Just in terms of the summer activity last summer, Laurie, there was I've heard a lot of people say, and that sounds like such a cliched thing, but that Ahmad and Bruno were United's best 2 players last season, and then they went out and the first thing they did was spend money on 2 number 10s to play in their positions. But actually, I think the Liverpool performance and the tactical setup as well, and the way that Mbeumo and Cunha played, I think people maybe saw in that performance exactly what Ruben Amorim was after and why he wanted to change those 2 number 10s and bring in Mbeumo and Cunha, because they were offering runs in behind, they were dropping deep, they were playing through the middle, they were playing out wide, they were keeping the ball, they were doing all the different things that he seems to demand from those positions. And certainly from my perspective, I understood a lot clearer why those two players in particular were brought in the summer, and why perhaps Bruno Fernandes and Ahmad in those 10 positions are not exactly what Amorim is after.
Yeah. I think the robustness of them and the pedigree that they came with. They're obviously 5 years younger. 5 years younger than Bruno, I would say. Cunha and Mbeumo. So you've got that extra runway for them to develop and establish themselves as consistent players for United. Ahmad is. I've debated that about his best position in this system, because I think he does his most effective work in that sort of final third, cutting in, and you're sort of thinking, is he going to get in the way of Mbeumo or vice versa? Well, actually at Anfield, it really worked nicely. And if you've got two players of that skill set attacking your left back and your left-sided centre-half, then it must be a nightmare for them. And, so I think at their best, that could be a really effective partnership. And even Bruno, I'll just have a quick look there. For his deeper position, he still created the most chances by a player in the Premier League this season, 22. Cody Gakpo's the next most at 17. Sean Longstaff, Jack Grealish, 17. Salah, 16. So, okay, I know quite a few of those might be corners because, just getting into the mixer and having a header on goal counts as a chance created in this stats. I could have looked at the open play number if I'd really actually done my research.
At the Anfield Road
properly.
End for Harry Maguire at the back post.
Well, there we
well.
go. And Carl's right to bring up the penalties, because that feels unsettling from his point of view. It's unlike him. Ruben Amorim was actually asked about this before the Anfield game, when he said that Bruno would remain his penalty kick taker. So I know that Mbeumo's very good at penalties, although he missed the one at Grimsby. Other players might put themselves forward, but yeah, he was kind of pretty resolute in saying Bruno would be his guy. I actually forgot to mention, in terms of when we're all giving ourselves a pat on the back about predicting the score, etc. at Anfield, I did also ask Amorim about going direct to Anfield and whether that could be a strategy to success. I don't know if we've got the audio that we could perhaps play in at this moment, but I'll let people go and dig it out with my question there.
No,
but
we can't find it, Laurie. We've had a good look. Can't find it, no.
Okay.
Sorry,
but I think Andy and Carl's point about next summer is a really interesting one, because obviously, Al Hilal came strong in the summer. I think we reported at the time, whilst we were over in Hong Kong and Kuala Lumpur, that Bruno was giving it serious consideration. Maybe ultimately he never really wanted to go, and ultimately it was his decision, right? Like, I think if he'd have wanted to explore it, United would have listened to what the Saudi Arabian sides that were kind of interested in him had to offer, but it never got to that point. So does it change next summer? It's going to be an interesting one to kind of keep an eye on. What would United want to do? I don't know. Personally, I just think that you can put a price tag on him, obviously, given his age and given, all that United could do with that money. But I kind of feel like his value to the club goes beyond sort of an empirical measure. It actually, I think it's kind of unquantifiable. So yeah, I'd be hesitant personally. If he wants to stay, I think he should be allowed to stay at United for as long as he does so.
Just looking at Cunha, Carl, you've written about him, and it's a decision to make, isn't it, for Ruben Amorim this weekend? Cunha, Mount, do they start? Does Sesko come back in? It's a big decision, that.
It is a big decision, and I'm sure Critch and others will try asking Amorim about this on Friday, and I'm sure Amorim will give absolutely no answer.
Ian thought about the goalkeeper situation.
Great minds, Laurie, yeah.
Sorry.
I was like, how exactly do I term this to try and tease something out of him, but not make it seem like I'm trying to get him to name he's naming his goalkeeper. Okay, fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe he gives
maybe
us
that's
his
the way.
answer.
Will Benjamin Sesko start this game, Ruben, and see what he says?
Maybe. I think Mount is becoming essential to the starting lineup.
Really?
More so for what he does off the ball. So the longer United are continuing with this 5-4-1 shape, I think you have Mount in there because he's just incredibly intelligent at reading pressing schemes and when to switch and when to drop into that midfield or when to press higher. So I think Mount's going to be important there. Mbeumo, for me, has been United's best attacking player, and attacking players imply, I think, in the front three. So I think Mbeumo's going to start. So then you've got this sort of Cunha, Sesko battle. And for that one, I think it might be horses for courses on the opposition, like you said on the Monday episode, and it'll be at Amorim's discretion. Cunha played pretty well against Liverpool. I really enjoyed those last 20 minutes where he was showing some moxie, to put it in a PG sense. But if you want to get if the early goals that United keep chasing, because Cunha's not scored or assisted yet, you might see Amorim go, give it to Šeško right now, who seems to have the hot hand, the goal scoring edge just at this point in time. But
Carl, for the uneducated, what's moxie?
Moxie is a combative edge, shall we say.
Okay.
I'll put it this way. Cunha's approach to the last 20 minutes at Anfield was the best way for Manchester. The way I can make Manchester United play better is to do everything in my power to make Liverpool play worse. So I'm going to frustrate and throw sand in the gears. I'm
sure Moxie was a cocktail I had on this Irish tour, you know.
It does sound like it could be. I've just looked it up, actually. AI on Google says Moxie can refer to a slang term for courage, determination and nerve. So
yes.
Very good, Carl.
Yeah.
These are good choices to have, though, aren't they?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. This is a nice problem.
This isn't playing Sofra and Amrabat at left back because you're so desperate. You've got players who are playing well, fighting for competition, having proper time to prepare for matches, bringing that moxie, which is important to every Manchester United team.
You are definitely going to add this to your vocabulary on a regular basis now, aren't you, Andy?
One injury, Andy, as well. Lisandro Martinez is, as we understand at the moment, maybe Amorim says something different in the press conference, there's one injury for United that in recent seasons, that's unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. I thought Cunha was spot on at Anfield, and I think the goals and the assists will come. I think all the new signings have shown positives, and yeah, it's good. I think the overriding theme is United have got to show a significant improvement against Brighton, a team who've done really well against Manchester United, just absolutely smashing with the 5 away fans and then send them packing.
Andy, who have you got for your front three? Who would you pick?
It's a really hard question.
So I'm leaning Mount, Mbeumo, Šeško.
Do you drop in Cunha after all
I am
his
dropping
moxie?
Cunha. With all his moxie.
Wow.
I think Cunha's moxie can be a second
Moxie
half
like
introduction.
United.
I'd be fine with any of them, you know.
Okay.
You know, honestly, I would. And there's times where I definitely wouldn't have said that about Manchester United's forwards players. Maybe
the challenge as well.
Totally
the challenge as well is that you could see Duncan Van Hecker enjoying the aerial battle that Amorim spoke about that he tried to avoid with Konate and Van Dijk at Anfield. But then if you do the same thing that you did against Liverpool, obviously Brighton will be able to react to that. And I remember, was it last season where United gave him loads of trouble early on, and then he just switched it up, and the split centre backs just created a completely different dynamic.
Yeah, that's the one.
Was it?
So
and then United couldn't react to that. So, you know, it's getting ahead and winning those sort of tactical battles and using these different pieces in different ways to win that pre-game, in-game. That's what all these pieces need to bring for Ruben Amorim, basically, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm still burned by that game where Ten Hag uses
was
a
that
box
Ten
mid.
Hag? Was that actually 2 seasons ago?
It was Ten Hag.
That's
He tried using a diamond midfield with sort of Højlund and I want to say Rashford up front.
Yeah, I think you're right,
The press was okay for the first 20 minutes. And then I think it's after a goal Brighton score, and you can see De Zerbi go wider. I've just knocked my lamp over. Go wider with his hands to a team, and then obviously Brighton's build-up was just stretched United's still largely incoherent press to a breaking point. Laurie, what are you making of this? What's your front three?
Well, I think
Mason Mount and 2 others.
Yeah, Mason Mount, and Mason Mount. I think I don't know. I mean, listen, he played 90 minutes and had cramp at the end of it, didn't he, Cunha? Maybe then you could sort of make an argument.
Did he have cramp?
Well, okay, yeah, maybe he was just applying some more moxie to the situation. It was fun though, wasn't it, to watch that? Immediately signalling for people to come and raise his leg up. But him and Casemiro both came back a day early to Carrington after they returned from Japan with Brazil duty, and so that actually is a bit more context to then them starting the game that I think obviously we weren't aware of at the time, and makes you understand, okay, they've kind of earned it a bit, and it's to be expected. They're not doing anything that's absolutely outrageous, but it is a good little sign of we're together in this, and we want to prove ourselves to be worthy of selection. So maybe then that gives Amorim, he can say to him, listen, I started you there where it was ahead of schedule. I want something different from this game. Can you really leave Sesko out 2 games in a row? But then I'm like, maybe I'm like you, Carl. Maybe it is a Mount. Do I have to leave Mount out? Does it go back to Cunha and Mbeumo? I think you're right though, Carl. Mount is off the ball work. I don't think you can underestimate that. So probably that's where I'd go with it. But
the press is going to be important if Brighton do build up from the back as well. And Mount is still probably United's best player in that regard, in those attacking positions. So. It's not just there though. There's Harry Maguire or Lenny Yoro. Does Patrick Dorgu get recalled? Does Nusayr Mazraoui come back into contention? So it's not like it's only that decision up front. And again, these are all really positive signs for United that they can pick the weapons for this game. Just on Lisandro Martinez, Laurie, we had a few questions actually about it. Ben, for example, got in touch on email. I don't think he should be rushed back with his injury record, but I think he's underappreciated exactly how good he is. He can improve this team still. I think we all agree with that. So is there any news about exactly when he could be back now?
Yeah, it's been you have different interpretation, don't you? Clearly the player wants to come back and will feel that he can do so ahead of schedule, which I think maybe played into a little bit in pre-season when I said that he'd be away with the team in the US, which he was, but that maybe the first 3 games, he wouldn't play in those, but he was hoping to kind of get back into things at that point. That's obviously not been the case, and so I think United are just making sure they want to be cautious with it, given the severity of the injury. So I'm told that he did take part in the warm-up on Monday after the game at Anfield, with players who didn't play at Anfield, that was, but he hasn't trained in any of the group sessions since. So we're still waiting, I think, for him to kind of come back into the group. The November international break seems like a good signpost, right, for that. You've got more time, more space again. So they're not, I suppose, to your point though, the necessity of him playing isn't as pronounced as it might have been if United didn't have all these players available. I mean, in that position alone, you've got Luke Shaw doing pretty well, playing all the time. Aidan Heaven hasn't actually had a look in since playing more minutes on tour than Luke Shaw. And then, obviously you could even put Lenny Yoro there as well. So you've got options in Martinez's position. So I think they're just making, even though he's in the leadership group, even though Amorim rates him massively for his character, then I think there's not an immediate push to kind of get him back so quickly.
Okay, another situation to keep an eye on, and we'll leave it there on Talk of the Devils before Andy says anything more disparaging about Brighton. Let's hope we've still got a smile on our face about Brighton after the weekend. It's been brilliant to do it with you all, so thank you very much, Laurie, Carl and Andy, and thanks for your company, watching and listening as well. We'll speak to you again after the weekend. Cheers, bye-bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already, like the video, and also get involved in the comments too, and click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anka and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels at TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.